woken on the morning of the 26th of December, Boxing Day, approximately 7 a.m, by the sound of the flood siren going off. And it sounded like exactly like you hear on the old films, the air raid siren going off, that you were going to be bombed. And it confused me for a few seconds. And then I realised what it was, and it was that we were definitely going to flood.
First heard the area was flooded. It was at the end of Christmas Day. I think the first thing I probably did was have a look on Twitter. That's normally a really good way of sort of finding out what's happening. Then it was welly boots on and come down and see what's going on. It was far worse than we previously imagined, and that the water was actually starting to overtop in the river in the centre and had started to rush down and fill up Hebden Bridge.
I've been one of the lucky ones, I will say that, but some people have lost absolutely everything. I don't know if I can say this, but one lady come in looking for knickers. So one of the gentlemen that was delivering stuff managed to get me a bag of knickers for her. Well, for everybody. It was short of everything, but they've lost everything, you know.
It was Boxing Day, 9 o'clock in the morning, and I was rudely awakened by my 83-year-old grandmother. And I had a knock on the door. I answered the door. My nan was there, and the first words out of her mouth were, "Gavin, we're flooding," which is a little bit odd. A hello would have been nice, but my initial reaction when I was told that we were flooding on Elpheborough Close was Nan's being a little bit over the top, but no, she wasn't.
My daughter works in a local cafe, and so I heard they were told quite categorically on Christmas Eve that there will be flooding on Boxing Day. And I woke up at 7 a.m. on Boxing Day to the sound of the sirens, so I knew it was happening. Okay.
I was exactly the same. The early morning siren just immediately meant, having had one the previous night, that there was something seriously wrong.
Yeah.
We approached from across the road, sort of knee deep, and this building's never been hit before, unusually, but we could see the water already approaching the door. So when we got here, we just as quickly as we could got the stock up, and we got the last piece of stock off the floor. Fortunately, just as the water came in, we were one of the few that managed to get away with our stock.
There was some flood warnings about, but me personally didn't take it very seriously. The first I heard of the actual flooding was when I got woke up at 7 o'clock on Boxing Day morning to the flood sirens going off in Mytholmroyd. I went back to bed, but then when they carried on going off, I thought, okay, it must be quite serious. So at that point, I got up, rang my family, friends, to check they was all okay.
7:30 in the morning, the flood sirens went off, and I came down straight away to see the waters rising. Had enough time to turn the power off, turn the alarm system off, and shift the furniture, help other people on the street move clothes and furniture from cafes. And then 2 hours later I had to wade out chest deep because the water was swirling around and making it quite dangerous.
So when you came in as it was still rising?
Yeah, I was here for the 2 hours that the water took to get from ankle height to chest height.
Did you manage to move a lot of stock?
Stock was the night before. I knew it was coming. The weather system was approaching, and I'd watched the online charts to show how the water was rising. So I'd done the hard work, but helping other people and making sure we got out safely was key.
Yeah.
So the first thing we did was came down here and we realised then that there wasn't a lot we could do.
Oh.
There wasn't a lot we could do, we could just see the water coming higher and higher and higher. So some very kind man helped me across the road because it was like a torrent outside, it was a river.
We got a flood warning from the Environment Agency on Christmas Eve. What we did then is what we always do when we get the flood warning, and we raise everything off the floor to a certain level. Unfortunately, it was a lot bigger than it has been in the past. And everything that we raised off the floor just wasn't high enough.
Over the Christmas period, I came down and helped out with my husband just in the aftermath of the floods. It was an interesting thing on the way in to see everybody's possessions and belongings piled up at the side of the road was so harrowing it made me cry. But after spending a couple of days here, the community spirit and the people coming out to help and just the way everybody was just thinking this isn't going to beat us. I actually went home feeling uplifted, so it was a really positive thing to do.
I shouted my son if he wanted some breakfast because I don't see him often. He lives many miles away and I'd had him over the Christmas period. I picked him up on Christmas Eve. So I shouted him round about 25 to 10, 20 to 10, whether he wanted some breakfast, and I just noticed how quiet he was outside, but I could hear the rush of water. And that's what got me slightly alarmed because I went straight to the front window. I looked outside to see a torrent of water coming onto the estate, which was slightly worrying because I'd never seen it before. So I went straight to the back door, looked outside, and my car was slowly being submerged underwater. So I just put my scruff straight on, my wellies, and I went straight outside down the stairs because I live on top floor. I was pretty lucky. I moved my car straight away because I thought this is not right, something's wrong. And so I moved my car to higher ground and returned to my flat, made sure my son was okay. And because I'm a support worker, I went into support mode. And within half an hour, the flood water was waist high. And something had to be done because we've got elderly people living on our estate who are on medication. They live in a warded community on part of our estate. And we thought, what's going to happen to them? And within 15 minutes after that, it was chest tight. So we had to do something. So about 6 or 7 of us just took it upon ourselves to go and rescue the elderly, what was still in the flats, and they were still in the flats. They were curled up. Some of them were curled up on the settees, crying their eyes out because they couldn't move. So we literally had to pick them up in the 90s, that's all they were dressed in, carry them above our heads to the flats upstairs. And because they were crying, I actually went back in their flats to save as much personal possessions as possible because the lives were in that flat. Everything was in that flat they owned. So something had to be done, and we went round every flat, which I think was nearly 50 flats, 6 of us. The rescue, the mountain rescue wasn't there, the police wasn't there at this moment in time, so we basically took it upon ourselves to do as much as we could for the residents. And luckily, and we got praised afterwards by the mountain rescue and the police force that we did save lives that day. But it had to be done. It's one of those. It's going to be one of those Christmases what I remember for a long time, good and bad.
We first knew our building was going to flood when we were running up and down the street filling sandbags for other people, and I thought this is going to have to change. So I found Caroline filling sandbags, and we came back into the building, and it started coming in under the door. I have no idea what time that was.
No.
It just time was. We've been out here since about 8.
Yeah, we went out. We went out pretty much as soon as the flood sirens went off, didn't we? And it was already all over the road and lapping on this side, and this side is slightly higher than across the road. So it was already lapping this side, and I'd never seen that.
I saw a post on the Calder Valley flood forum of a lady who put a post on saying that she'd been advised by her insurance company to put all her property outside her house so that they could come because nobody was living in the house because obviously of the flood damage. She then found out that all white goods, i.e. washer, cooker, fridge, had been stolen and
probably taken for sale. So I decided that I was going to go on my Facebook and ask a few of my biker friends if they would help with a little bit of security down in Mytholmroyd, because these people were just losing things left, right and centre. So we set up a small group of 5 of us on the first night in Mytholmroyd Community Centre, out of the back of a van with a camping stove to keep ourselves warm with drinks. We patrolled Mytholmroyd, found all the little back lanes, round the churches, the schools, just keeping people safe and the properties safe, because there were a lot of empty properties. The whole place was in darkness. It looked like something out of the Blitz. People's things all piled up outside the houses everywhere. We patrolled for that night, all night, checking little alleys, various other places, and chased off 2 or 3 vans that were pulling up, jumping out, trying to grab what they could, throw it in the van and take off. We managed to foil three I think, of them on the first night. The second night we had 15 people turned up to help. So we widened the area slightly and moved a few down to Hebden Bridge, because we were hearing that that was happening in Hebden Bridge as well. On the third night, we got volunteers from the Yorkshire 4x4 volunteer team came to help, and the K9 dog unit came to help too, which made it so we could do a wider area. Then we decided that we were going to do Mytholmroyd, Hebden Bridge, Todmorden, Sorby Bridge, Elland and Brighouse, who had all been suffering from the floods.
Well, I mean, I think not directly this time, fortunately, but I think indirectly, you know, when you live in the town, work in the town, and you have friends who are businesses, friends who live in Botswana, you realise the extent of the impact of it really quite quickly. And, it's quite upsetting, even if you haven't been flooded yourself, because it's where you live, it's where you play, it's where you shop, and where you see people. So. It's quite a tough time for everybody, I think. But having been flooded before, I also know how people are feeling who have been flooded.
Yeah.
It's quite a tough time.
Yeah. When I went to town hall the other day, they just said, right, free tea and coffee over there, free hot food and drinks over there. What do you need? What's happened? The head of the volunteer group, and I told her exactly what I needed. And yesterday morning they sent a group of 4 people down here, and we had mops and buckets, and people have been coming. You can see here we've had hot food delivered every day with hot drinks, and it's been astonishing actually, the amount of people that have just been to help. So thank you everybody. Brilliant.
In a way, it's almost what we'd all expect. A fantastic reaction. Everybody coming together, people helping each other out. The amount of work that some people have been putting into this. People not just from the community, but people coming from outside of the community, not just from near, but actually people from far. And the support that we've been having. Last night we were just about to close up, and a takeaway and walking store sent over 100 chicken biryanis for people, so everybody had a hot meal to go home with and that kind of thing. That type of support has been fantastic, but equally just the people who are prepared to go out there and dig people's houses out, get mucky, get dirty, work for days on end. People they don't know half the time. It's just been fantastic.
It's really hard for anyone who's not been here to actually really get a sense of how extraordinary it's been, and it's really hard to just convey quite how special an experience it's been, as well as the most awful and heartbreaking experience. I think I've been feeling really emotional over the last few days and thinking there has to be things that stay from this, that we learn about the way that people can work together. I think the fact that people have come from all over the place to help and have sent help in various ways, the fact that it's been a multi-ethnic response, I think I have been particularly moved by the response from the Muslim and Sikh communities. I think simply because I know that there are people who have some attitudes that I find fairly abhorrent about ethnicity and about a multiracial society, and I think that it's been incredibly humbling, and hopefully we'll have done huge amounts to build bridges permanently in terms of community cohesion in ways people realise that we're all one. So that for me has been one of the most amazing things, and just the way that people have given tirelessly, and people who've got nothing much themselves have given, both in terms of physical labour and time and helping in whatever way they can. And I think that's the actual story of this, as well as the story of the devastating loss that is clearly going to be affecting many people for months to come.
I'd like to say, on a personal level and also on behalf of the business, a massive, massive thanks to everyone that came in and helped us out. If you guys hadn't have helped us out, we'd still be knee-deep in muck, wading through ruined clothing. We've had friends and customers taking stuff home to wash them for us, bringing them back all neatly packaged.
I haven't been directly affected. There's nothing that's happened in my house, but I've been horrified and heartened. You know, horrified by what's happened to people, but the response, the way, the solidarity from within the valley and all over the country has been absolutely amazing. And if we could spread that solidarity all over this country, maybe we could change the future for the better.
The response from the community has been absolutely amazing. We've had so much support, so many volunteers coming in on the first day. We were given hot food at the trades club, coffee when we were flagging and didn't know what was going on at the town hall. When you don't have anything, when your power's off, when your heating's off, when your phone's down, when you can't go to the shop because the shop's been flooded, or when all you've got in the house to eat is sort of chocolates left over from Christmas, and really you don't feel like eating anyway because you're so sort of stressed about what's happening. It's great that the people rally around and look after you.
I think it's changed the town. I do. Because it was just so big this time round. It's changed the town. I mean, Hebden Bridge has always been a place where you can walk down the street and smile and say hello to people. It's always been a lovely place and a lovely community, but now we all know each other on first name terms and everybody's done something. I think it's changed us. It really has. It's made us stronger, definitely. Yeah. The community spirit here is amazing. Anything's possible. Now we know what we're capable of.
I mean, I don't know enough about what will affect flooding, although I suspect that trying to keep the moors a bit more absorbent would help quite a lot. And I think the thing that anybody can take away from the Calder Valley is that the local response is key. They're the people who are affected, and everybody's mucking in together, and rather than being essentially ignored because you haven't actually been flooded, when actually your energy is what is going to keep the rest of us going for however long it takes to get back up again. You know, one of my friends described herself as a chocolate teapot because she'd come into town and it had really upset her. But she's not a chocolate teapot. She said, I'm sorry for being such a chocolate teapot. I went away and I went to so-and-so school and I helped them for the rest of the day. And I thought, yeah, that's not my definition of a chocolate teapot. Because everybody who came was so affected. We were affected looking at these shops that we love and use all the time because they're just across the road with piles of stuff outside. So I don't know how we do that, but I think the thing that anybody can take away is the community response. We'll save this town.
Lessons to learn? I don't know. There's been so much positivity since this has happened. It's difficult to draw.
What are you going to do differently, if anything, in terms of your business?
We'll just fit the shop so it's future-proofed, really. I think that's what a lot of businesses should really learn from this, is if you are able to reopen, future-proof your premises, concrete or stone floors, cement rendered walls, so you can hose it out and dry out quickly. Raise your electrics. We're in a floodplain at the end of the day, so the more we can do to sort of future-proof the shops, the better, and also for the homes and private dwellings around here as well.
What can we do for the future? Well, we're lucky. This time we've got insurance. I think it's very unlikely that any insurance company will ever touch us again with regard to flooding. The insurance company, quite rightly I suppose, will only put us back to where we were. They won't invest any money in making us flood-proof. What we as a business need to do, and what all the businesses need to do, is to try and come up with novel ways of protecting ourselves from these super high floods that we suffered this year.
I think it's going to be a long process, because a lot of us felt, and obviously involved with local government, a lot of us felt we'd made some real differences since the last flood in 2012. Obviously we haven't made the differences that we thought we'd made. So I can already see it now. Meetings are starting to be called and be held. Hopefully some more funding will start coming his way. And maybe we do need a major rethink and not quite go back to some of these simple methods that we were employing since 2012. Maybe they're not quite enough. Only time will tell.
We need to realise and look, when we're putting the planning permission forward for these buildings, flooding needs to be a priority. Can these buildings sustain flooding? Can the Calder Valley take more buildings? Do we need any more man-made structures in such a beautiful natural valley? This valley was formed millions of years ago by water, and from the goings-on of 2015 Boxing Day, the valley was trying to take itself back. Nature was teaching us a lesson that she's in charge, Mother Nature's in charge, and no matter how much money or effort we throw at it, she has the final say.
Well, I mean, I suppose what's really struck me this time is that we had last set of floods. We had an engineering response. An engineering response was looking at how you sort of manage the water flowing through the town. I'm really, and somebody who lives a bit higher up, who was flooded by water coming off the moors last time, I'm more and more convinced that we need to work with the way that water works a little bit more and go for some softer engineering solutions, some older solutions, and there's some really interesting examples around of how that's being managed in other towns around the country effectively. And I think we need to really be looking at those upland solutions really to water management.
There's some very big, epic environmental lessons that we need to think about and put into practice. But on a kind of local community level, it's about just keeping those barriers pulled down around difference. And I just think the racism, I'll just say it, because I think the racism that's been in this country, led by our media in the past couple of years, led also by our government, this is a perfect example of why they're so wrong. And I just wish our media would pick up on it, and they won't, so we need to do it our own way. Let's get those stories out there.
I think it's a really important point, because New Year's Eve there was a lot of coverage in the media about celebrations that were being toned down or cancelled because of fears of extremist threats. I totally understand that, but I thought, yeah, but in my head today are the lovely young Muslim men who've driven up from London. In my head are the Sikh men and women who've been bringing us food. So that's what I'm seeing, and that's because we're here and that's what's happening here. The other stuff is happening, but it's a bigger spectrum, and Sarah's right, you need to get those stories out. I also think they need to plant trees and dredge rivers.
We have a difficult job sometimes, and we see the worst in people, and this has just raised my spirits and made me think that actually the world isn't such a bad place, because everybody from all walks of life, from all the different communities, you know, the lads from the mosques have been up, the Sikhs from the group in Slough have been up helping. Everybody's come. It doesn't matter who they are, where they're from, what the nationality, what the religion or background. Everybody's just worked together, and that is what we need to get out there and tell people that's happening, because it's a brilliant thing.
We say the community as if we talk locally. I personally have met people that have travelled up as far as Milton Keynes to help with the relief effort. The community spirit within Mytholmroyd and the whole of the Calder Valley has been absolutely amazing. The flooding brought so much devastation, but it's also left some wonderful, wonderful things behind. People talk now. People are pulling together. People who have lived next door to people for 3 or 4 years who never speak, we're no longer just friends, we are a family. The Calder Valley has become a family. Physically, the flooding destroyed a lot of bridges, but emotionally, it's built many, many more.
I couldn't believe that all creeds, all races, all religions had come together and that their efforts were absolutely awesome.
It's like seeing the very best and the very worst of life all in the space of a week, but I think people will get back on their feet in Hebden Bridge. You know, I think we're a resilient lot, and supporting and helping each other, I'm sure the town will start thriving again.